Welcome back to a new episode. Salam alaikum, Sebastian, كيف حالك?
أنا بخير.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, man.
And in today's episode, we want to speak about some great topics we went through the last weeks and months, especially Ramadan.
Yes,
I
Ramadan.
think it's been an amazing few weeks we had with our clients. So today we just want to share some experiences we had in the Ramadan 2025 compared to 2024, what we've learned, what did work well, what didn't work well, and share our insights with the audience so they can use that for the next upcoming Ramadan season or even Q4, as you mentioned before in our talk.
Sure. No, I think it's a very great experience for us, Ramadan this year. Especially compared to last year, because it's actually the second time where we really were able to go fully in with our clients. Because when we started, Ramadan was just about to end, so we didn't catch the Ramadan basically 2 years ago. So this was our second time going into the market with spending already million a month, $1 million USD monthly on
not
our
not
clients.
Saudi riyal, US dollars.
So that's already quite a significant budget. Comparing that to last year, we already increased that big time. Last year, I don't know, maybe like 500K or something we spent. Of course, we didn't have the amount of clients we have now. We have more clients. We have more clients that spend more. So that means there's just an overall increase of, we need to get performance, we need to get results. When you spend more, doesn't automatically mean that you also generate more sales, right?
Yeah.
If that would be the case, then everybody would just increase their budget.
Scale forever.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think for last year, what the main learning was, because we started working with a bunch of clients, such as like Golden Sand before that, and they never did like UGC on a grand scale, and it was the first time, the first playground that we actually started using our Khalid UGC.
Exactly.
And I think the results spoke for themselves, because since then we adopted that strategy into the always on campaigns, which means that worked better than what we did before.
Yeah.
Which was maybe more branding focused, more, let's say, high quality product shot, or like more Snapchat focused even in a content sense.
Yeah. Even if the audience goes on our website, they can see the case studies,
sure.
what we achieved for Golden Sand or for other brands. And I mean, this year we onboarded many other big clients, such as Iowa, for example, who of course also went through Ramadan, and they also utilized the power of user-generated content, right?
Yeah. And they also had a similar scenario as like Golden Sand, for example, did. So I think in terms of like the bigger brands, I would say they usually don't focus that much on UGC. I think that's the number one learning that you see, because it's for them harder to, basically say this is something we can live with as a brand, because they have a lot of brand identity and a lot of guidelines that need to be kept. But I think both can go together very well, because our UGC that we create, it's not like cheap UGC. It's very, very high quality UGC, but still authentic, right? So I think that's the question here, that or like the pathway you have to take. You have two options. You can go with like cheap UGC, which can work, but
and mass UGC. Yeah. So you have tons of videos, but
and it will damage your brand maybe, because it's like not representing the brand appropriately, but also not engaging maybe properly. And then you can, of course, go into high production content, but it's expensive and you don't really see the authenticity of it, and people cannot relate with it. You need that also for bigger brands, but what you need to, like what we are always preaching and pushing with our clients through TikTok Creative Exchange, TDCX, through our regular way of working with them, is we need a constant flow of authentic UGC that utilizes, the current trends. What is the pop culture, like what is happening in Saudi when you have Founding Day, when you have Saudi National Day, when you have Ramadan, Eid, whatever. There's so much stuff going on now with Hajj also coming up. There's so many different, things you need to be aware of, and then of course also the mindset of what is currently happening, because it also changes, right? When you look into the German market, it's also the same way, right?
It's such a fast evolving market. Yeah. And I think an approach that many brands don't do the right way is that they say, okay, we have a campaign, let's book some UGC with us, for example. And after that, that's it. Yeah. But the UGC recruiting, it's not a one-time project. It should be an ongoing project, because the brands need monthly new UGC to stay on the top, to improve their results. And of course, the UGC we produce for the clients, it's always based on the learnings of the previous UGC. Yes. I think that's also a place where many brands are burning a lot of budget, also during Ramadan, is that they just create all kinds of UGC and not really looking at with a data-driven approach. So they don't look which hooks are performing the best, which call outs, which call to actions, what creator is delivering the best way the message. Yeah, we see it in our dashboard we created for our clients. We have this one dashboard, and we can of course see creator, for example, Ahmed, performs the best compared to the other creator because he's delivering higher return on ad spend and lower CPI, for example. Yeah.
For sure. No, I think the data-driven approach is key to understanding what kind of things you need to focus on. You know, what kind of messaging, what kind of hooks. Sometimes you could have like a transition hook where you have like a viral video or something happening. People are waiting, and then you show them the product, or you do a transition, or you have like a visual hook or a audio. So there's of course different ways, and these are the things that you will learn by analyzing the content more. And I think what we can also like differentiate the UGC is something we create with our creators. We have around 600 Khaliji UGC creators. And then you also have, of course, Spark ads, right? So I think those Spark ads are something that is heavily used in Saudi. I think a lot of brands, they go onto Spark ads when they first start with TikTok, because influencers are there, and also it's the most native thing. I think Spark ads is a great approach, but also here, Spark ads only bring you so far if you don't analyze them and if you don't have a strategy, especially with an agency such as ours, to test them on a basically regular basis, compared to regular UGC or to the UGC you upload. We call it like dark posts. Yeah, and then you should have both. Like one or the other is fine, but if you want to get the best results, you need to have both, right?
Especially if you throw everything into just one bucket, you will have spaghetti carbonara at the end, where you cannot figure out what is working, what is not working.
For sure.
Instead, if you work with us, we have an approach where we, of course, can exactly see which Spark ads are bringing in results and which Spark ads are just wasting your advertising budget. And even if you just take the approach, let's turn everything off that is not working, your performance will automatically improve, of course. Yeah. And I think the same counts for, because you said UGC, especially here in the market. And since our last episode we had here in the studio, we had many talks with brands. Lots of things have changed. And the brands always mention to us, or they show us, we are working with all these influencers. Please look at our influencer post. And we look at them. There may be nice videos, but they're really not made to drive up conversions, to drive app installs, to drive up sales in a store, because they're more towards storytelling. They can work as a branding purpose, but not really as a TikTok conversion format, as a medium. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why so many brands fail with TikTok ads. Maybe Snapchat ads is working for them, but they are heavily dependent on it, And I would never recommend a brand to just have one channel bring in all their customers, because if your ad account gets blocked, you have big issues. If your performance suddenly drops, this is the only channel which is bringing you loyal customers. So then you also have issues. And the third one is, of course, are you really getting incremental conversions? Because if you're putting all your budget on one channel, especially on Snapchat ads, with every dirham, every dollar, every Saudi riyal you're spending on the ads, are you really acquiring a new client? Or are you just retargeting, re-reaching the existing audiences because you've already spent so much? And with the big clients we have, this is some of the issues they face. So I think many of the audience who are listening may face the same issues. And that's exactly where we come into place, because we know where TikTok ads can solve that issue, because they can distribute their ad budgets. And our goal, what we've seen is we've been able to outperform the other channels with TikTok ads, right?
Yeah, true. No, of course, couldn't agree more. That's why we're doing it together. But I think that's why we see the results, because the point you just put towards, I think, is a clear indication of what you need to focus on when you really want to scale on a consistent basis. That incrementality means not only running new campaigns and testing different stuff, but also understanding where are my customers coming from. Of course, I might have more high value customers coming from Snapchat, from an influencer, but you always have to remember, how much are you paying the influencer? And then if you push the ad of the influencer again, you also are paying on top of that. So the return ad spend of an influencer on Snap needs to be pretty good in order to justify spending there. And then it doesn't answer the question of, are the people that have saw this ad, are they actually incremental
new customers
that would have maybe they would have converted either way? You can always ask this question, but that's why attribution is important. Understanding, especially here in the GCC region, a lot of people are using apps, right?
Yeah.
When you compare that to the German market, it's more web-based. But do you understand how are the mobile measurement partners, set up? What is the attribution within the MMP? Adjust, AppsFlyer, whatever they're called. They have their own attribution, which is a probabilistic attribution, basically saying, okay, it attributes based on the data it receives from the whole channels and so on. And then you, of course, have also the scan attribution, which is the iOS thing, right? And understanding how the data is interpreted in different ways is also important to us, right? Because we don't want to just report, this is the data from TikTok, great data, right? Amazing, look at the CPIs. But maybe the MMP data doesn't show
completely different. Yeah.
And that's why we try to always, compare both things. And that's where the data-driven approach comes into place. And then you can use that data and optimize basically on the backend data,
based
the
on
real
that.
data.
Yeah.
What the real data says. It's always, what do you believe more?
This is exactly what, let's say, our favorite client always says, where's the source of truth? Yeah, you know who I mean?
Yes,
and
of course,
I agree, of course, because it's very interesting to really deep dive into the different dashboards, because, of course, everyone wants to attribute the conversions to themselves to get more budget. If the marketing manager, if the C-level management sees, oh, this platform on the paper is bringing the most conversions, let's put more budget, let's allocate more budget towards that. But is it really the truth? Is that really the source where the conversions are coming from? And that's where the MMPs, but not only these, you have to take a step back and really analyze everything together and understand how they're working together.
Yeah.
And only then you will find what's working for me as a brand, because every brand is different. Some may have a customer journey which takes 1 day and not longer.
Yeah.
And other customer journeys, they even include a store visit, because the people rather buy the product in store.
Sure.
So then what do we have to attribute to add? We have to add offline conversions, basically, and we have to add the in-store sales towards the online marketing spend to really get a clearer picture.
Yeah. And I think then you can have as many tools as you want, right? The tools are all great. But I think especially in Germany, in the European market or US market, you see so many tools, so many attribution tools, everything popping up. This is telling you exactly how to optimize your ad account. And there is, some truth towards understanding attribution, but you will only go so far. There will always be a missing link if you don't really take a step back and look at the full picture. Like what is actually happening inside my advertising journey, because the user behavior just changed so much over the last couple of years. It's not like you see an ad, top funnel, and then you see a retargeting ad and you buy. If that would be the journey always, it would be too easy. You have so many different channels now. You have so many different touch points. You have influencers. You have maybe, of course, Google also plays a big part of that. And I think the number one thing is to always think when you create an ad, can this ad speak to anyone inside the funnel? Because the targeting and the retargeting and so on, it doesn't really work anymore the way it worked in the past. So that means your ad should always be functioning for anyone in the funnel. But it should also cover all the questions that somebody has. So what does this bring us back to? Content and making sure the content always goes full circle, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you cannot cover everything all the time, but it will always be great and important when you have a new batch of creatives. You launch 8 new videos. In one TDCX, we try to cover different hooks, different messages, different USPs, value propositions, whatever you have, different call to actions even. Like maybe you go into the store, maybe you have one call to action that is for purchase.
Download the app now,
install,
buy now,
exactly.
Buy one, get one free. On top of that, working with offers and testing offers against each other, because one offer may be perceived much, much better and with a higher value from the audience than, let's say, a different offer. For example, 50% off can be perceived worse as buy one, get one free. So you have to test on different levels, of course. Of course. But I think you said it very well. I mean, we are producing for our clients hundreds and hundreds of UGC Kaliji per month, you know? And that's what we're trying to push to every client. It's not enough nowadays to just, okay, let's do one project of UGC, 5 to 10 videos, and that's it for the next 6 months. That's not how it works. We've deep dive into some ad accounts and we did audits, and we saw that they had big spends. We're talking about over $1 million. And how many creatives did they use on that? So not a lot. So the uplift that is available there is massive, because going in with new UGC, with different creators, with different messages, approaching different parts of the customer journey. Some is more in the beginning of the customer journey. Some part of the audience is more at the end of customer journey. You will be able to increase your conversions drastically. And I think also the point with retargeting you said is very interesting. And we have these discussions many times with our clients. They come to us and then they say, well, shouldn't we create a custom audience of the add to carts of the last 3 days? However, we exclude the initiate checkouts of the last 3 days. So it's a very perfect audience. And then we place exactly this ad, because this fits into the storyboard on the paper. It looks fantastic.
Yes, amazing.
And there should
I would sign it right away.
Yeah, there should be no reason why it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
But the reality is different. It doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't work, you know?
It doesn't work.
Our approach is very different. So I think now going to the next topic, I think it would be very interesting if you could share your top 3 learnings or your top 3 just general things you saw in Ramadan 2025, which worked very, very well, where we had great success with our clients. So we can share those insights. And afterwards, maybe we can look forward to 2026. It's already, sounds crazy, 2026 next year. What we expect.
Of course.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I think we touched already on very important topics. I think just starting with the performance side of things, I think the main focus you should focus on is Smart Plus campaigns within your TikTok ads. So don't overthink your setup. I think that's one of the most important things, especially as we just discussed, retargeting, doing crazy custom audiences, these things that will not... The amount of time you have to invest into that to make that exact ad and make everything exactly as you want it to be, it won't give you the result. maybe it will perform worse. So, but it won't perform better in 99% of cases. Okay, so there might be 1% where it performs.
Where you win, where you're better than the algorithm. Where you outperform the system.
Yes,
but most of the times it's not worth your time.
It's not worth the time. The question is more, how can I launch, let's say, a campaign setup that covers 30, 40, 50 active ads in an ad account that spends $50,000 monthly, $100,000. That would be an appropriate amount of creatives, right? So 30, 40 creatives maybe that are active. How many campaigns do I need to sufficiently spend on all those campaigns so that we have a spend on the best performing assets and we don't lose assets that are not getting spent? So that means maybe creating 3-4 Smart Plus campaigns, 3 Smart Plus, 1 ABO campaign, whatever the setup might be, but having a good setup in place to test and scale. I think that's the number one thing you need to have, because if you don't have that, you can create as much UGC as you want. If the UGC is not getting spent, if the UGC is not pushed into the algorithm the way you want it to be, you're already losing the possibility to achieve great performance, right? So I think the baseline, that's why we do ad account audits, right? That's why we go into the ad account and look at everything very in detail, is a good setup. Yeah.
I can add here, if the brand or anyone listening here is spending over $50,000 a month on ads, you're welcome. Click on our website, click on the button, and we will audit your ad account completely free of charge, of course. And I think the thing you said very well is with the testing. So you say to have a testing system, a testing framework in the ad account, it's essential, right?
It's 100% essential. And it doesn't have to be complicated, right? You can just have one Smart Plus campaign where you launch new assets, and either you remove the old ones and add new ones, or you just duplicate the campaign and you add a new batch of creatives. Right? It can be that simple. It doesn't need to be ABO campaign, different ad groups, complex setups. It doesn't have to be that way, but you just need to be aware of how can I actually sufficiently test something and then understand what is performing well and then build on top of that. That's the only thing you have to answer, basically. And it's so funny always how people try to make it so complex with creative testing and these kind of complex things. It's a very straightforward process, but if you don't have it, and you don't have a naming convention and don't have all those things, it won't be giving you any understandable data, and you won't be able to take advantage of that. So I think that's very important.
Before going to the second point, can you explain what do you mean under naming convention?
Yeah, with the naming convention, I just mean how many times have we looked into an ad account where there was like conversions, reach, whatever, no naming convention in place.
I mean, maybe it's a little bit arrogant, I don't know. But when I look into your ad account and I don't see a naming conversion, I already see like red flags within the ad account. Yeah, because it's
that way.
Such a base work, you do a groundwork, which then enables you to have a much better understanding. I mean, let's just take, not even exporting the data, leaving it within the ads manager itself. You put in a filter. I just want to view at my video ads compared to my image ads. Okay, I'm talking more about Meta, for example, but whatever.
100%.
Or I want to only analyze my app conversion campaigns compared to my conversion campaigns or my shopping campaigns. Yeah. Without the right naming convention, it's going to be difficult to have that filter down and analyze it, segment it. So I think that is very crucial, especially even if you are at the starting stage. At some point you will grow the ad account, and the more you spend, the more data is available, and it's very important to keep that structured data in place to always have an understanding. So that's your first learning you want to share. What do you think about your second one during Ramadan?
Second 2025? I think have a clear understanding what the offers will be, right? And then also make those offers as attractive as possible, that you can fully plan through Ramadan, right? You have your start of Ramadan, beginning of Ramadan, middle, end, and you have offers that go alongside it. you don't have to make it also too complex, because if you have too many offers, you need more creatives and you have to switch them more often. Here, I think what comes into handy is display cards. If you have different display cards which are below your ad, right?
It's popping up after 2-3 seconds.
You can set the seconds, but after 2 seconds minimum. There you can highlight the offers you have, and if you have different offers changing, you can add them in there. But have a generic offer that works through all of Ramadan would be ideal. Buy one get one, buy one get two, percentage off, whatever that might be, and then like really go heavy on those offers, because I think that's the main part that you need to focus on in Ramadan.
I think the number one key is to have a deep understanding of your audience and to really know what do they want. Because it doesn't make sense to work against your audience. You should always work towards the audience, with them. So if you've seen in the history, for example, we have an offer which is a buy one get one offer. And we always know that this offer is working very well. It's considered very well as a high value offer from the audience. Then of course it makes sense to also continue with this offer during the Ramadan. You can even keep your offers the same, but you just change the naming. So suddenly it's not the autumn offer or spring offer, so now it's suddenly a Ramadan offer. You can even keep your evergreen ads running. I think we've seen an uplift also in normal evergreen campaigns, which 100%. Have not even mentioned the word Ramadan or anything. This is exactly the same what we see in Black Friday, and where I see many brands doing a mistake is that you turn off everything, which doesn't make sense at all. Because suddenly even your normal ads that have been running for weeks and months suddenly get an uplift in performance, because the audience is just looking for the offer, suddenly is open towards buying. They are in a completely different mindset, and you can take advantage of that. So I think how was it with the clients? We had the mix, of course, from Ramadan-focused creatives towards also general evergreen campaigns, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, we always try to keep everything live that doesn't need to be turned off if it's performing. Why should we turn it off, right? There's evergreen content that performs always, and we have content that is prior Ramadan last year. In some accounts, it's still one of the top performing contents now. Okay, so just because it's an old asset, that means that asset has been performing so well, it's a winning creative, and a winning creative can work for months on end. It can work for a year, it can work for 2 years if it's really driving results, right? So that's why, to go back to the beginning of the question, the offers, communicating it through, the display cards or through the instant pages, adding something on top of that creative that might already perform, that's the best thing you can do. So having a great offer and adding that to your creative in whatever way possible, that's, I think, a great opportunity, right? You can also add sticker codes. What we also did for our own ads, like countdown ads.
With the countdown, exactly.
Countdown ads. Ramadan coming, or Ramadan sale, or Eid or something, whatever. There's so many different possibilities. So I think that's number 2. And number 3, I think, we already discussed it at the beginning, content, right? So the content needs to be as creative as possible, as authentic as possible, and as relevant as possible. While also focusing on the performance metrics. And I think this is only possible if you have a crazy good team that lives and breathes TikTok, right?
Understands the DNA of the platform.
They just need to be there. They need to understand it. They need to spend all time every day on their phones, right? To really understand how to speak to people. And this is something we see. There might be an ad you would think never will perform. It looks like, what is this? What is this kind of trend? Like, how should this perform? Or like this filter,
tralalero, tralala,
whatever,
meme, something, whatever.
And then it's the best performing asset.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that just reaffirms or reassures you need to trust the creators. You, of course, need to help the creators make content that performs, because they are more creative. But if they have the freedom to do what they think will work with the audience, and you also give them some, offers, which we touched on in the point 2, you should have.
It should work.
You should have the best result.
You have the best outgoing position where
Exactly.
you can be from to achieve results.
Yeah.
And what do you see in all of so first of all, thank you for sharing those 3 learnings, best practices from this year Ramadan. I think we completely overachieved our goals compared to 2024. All of the clients, they had great success in 2025. Of course, I'm already very excited for next year. Yeah, every year we're taking more the learnings from the previous year, approaching them. And I mean, the clients who really work with that data-driven approach, they're winning. They're winning compared to other brands which are struggling because they don't really have a system and a strategy in place that brings in results. Where do you see in all of this the argumentation to also work with branding and reach campaigns? Like, where do they have their place? Because we've been only talking about conversions, performance, and that's what we are specialized in. We deliver results. Would you say that branding and reach campaigns also deliver results? And where do they have their place in all of this?
They have for sure their place. Like especially I would say in the GCC market, they have their place even more than in the European market, for example. I think the European market, especially in Germany, it's not as relevant doing like branding campaigns. But here, especially on TikTok, you have a lot of great formats, right? You can do a top view campaign, which is like the top ad. You open TikTok, it shows to the user over 3 times a day when they open the app.
So they're forced to see your ad, basically.
Yes. We also did a bunch of top views already in Saudi. So I think top views are a very premium placement, but if you want to really showcase your offer, your brand, it's a great way to do it if you are willing to invest that. And there's also top views. You don't have to purchase 100% of the top view, right? You can also purchase only 25% or something of the whole available reach of impressions. There's also top feed, which is the 3rd placement within the feed, guaranteed. So that means it's also a premium product, and it will also make sure that people see it in the earliest session of a user, so that maybe keeps you more in the mind of the user. And I think it's also a great addition because it doesn't has to be a big investment. It can be a smaller investment. And then there's different products such as Pulse and so on. So I think the premium branding products are pretty significant in the GCC region if you couple them together with performance.
Exactly. You need to have the right strategy in place. And we've seen great results with our clients using them because on one side, not like a normal daily budget campaign where you allocate your budget, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. You have this basically like reach and frequency campaign where you pre-book it. This budget will be fully spent, and you also get the guarantee in the impressions, right?
Exactly.
On how many impressions. So you really can be sure that your message will get out towards the audience within that day or that time frame where this campaign is running then.
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend doing branding, but also branding with the right ad, right? Of course, there might be a more high production ad could work, but we've also seen, UGC doing well in a branding format. So I think overall, having both together is the best approach.
It's the sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot.
We've seen ad accounts where we did audits, and the spend towards branding and reach campaigns was much, much higher compared to conversion campaign where we both know we're not a big fan of that, because if you really dive deep down into the data, you often see that that's not delivering the real results. Maybe it looks on the first glance that it's performing better because for example, cost per install can be lower, but if you look lower down the funnel, what do you care more about? Is the cost per app install, for example, in an app business, is it the cost per app install? Or is it then the cost per acquisition at the end within the app? And there you can, of course, often see what we saw. Okay, the CPI may be lower in a branding campaign, but the customer acquisition cost within the app is then much higher compared to a real conversion campaign. Because, of course, the quality of the traffic the algorithm targets and brings towards the app is completely different based on the conversion and campaign type you're choosing. Yeah.
True, definitely. No, I think as you said, it's not one or the other. It's both together, and understanding what a branding campaign does, right? What is the goal of the branding campaign? How should a branding campaign work? It's not necessarily only a, generating sales. It will be just pushing your brand out, but it's important to always fill up your pool of potential people who are also willing to purchase, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with reach and branding, the possibilities are just better because you're not limited with all of the targeting and iOS kind of stuff. Not as much as at least, but of course you're limited with reporting.
Yeah.
So you have to make that decision wisely. And that's where we come into place. We understand, I think, pretty well where to focus on with performance budget and where to focus on with branding budget and how to allocate perfectly.
Exactly. And it's always a balance between the different teams. You have the more the branding and reach team, and they are also more towards their CI, that it gets pushed, it's important. Then we have more the performance team, which can see, this UGC is working well with bright neon colors, and it may not look as appealing to the eye, but it's bringing more conversion. And the goal is, of course, to put these two together to achieve the best of both worlds. Because especially if you grow and grow further, you have to invest also into branding assets and creatives. It's not enough to then only focus on the UGC, and we've seen the mix with our clients where they do both.
Yeah.
So are there any upcoming TikTok products or changes that you can share with us for this year or 2026, which brands can utilize?
So I'm not sure how much of that is actually already in the press, but in Germany, TikTok Shop launched, right? TikTok Shop is a in the app shopping possibility. So you don't leave the app, right? So it launched in Germany, it launched across Europe. So if you think about it, it will naturally also launch in the Middle East.
Hopefully.
Somewhere this year, hopefully. And I have pretty big hopes for that in the Middle East. There are some challenges in Germany, I think, but it's also a little bit cultural. But if you look into Asia, like China, for example, TikTok Shop,
it's been there for also on other platforms. Besides TikTok.
Inside, check out like inside WeChat, like people are used to these kinds of behaviors, and also the behavior here with apps is different. Yeah, so I think if TikTok Shop launches before Q4,
can be a big game changer for Ramadan 2026.
Yeah.
And of course, you need the partner. A brand cannot just do it themselves, right?
No, you need the TikTok Shop partner. We will be, if there's TikTok Shop launching here, you can guarantee that we will be TikTok Shop certified.
You already have it in Germany, basically, so we have the experience and we can bring it towards this market.
TikTok Shop certified. There's also the creative agency part where you work with creators, right? Because you also need to have that, and the shop management, setting up all of that stuff, because it's depending on what kind of shop system you have. There's a lot of things, and it's actually a pretty complex setup, and you need definitely a partner.
It always sounds easier than if you really deep dive down to it. It has many more different variables that you have to set up the right way so it really performs. Yeah. I think that maybe some listeners in the audience, they think it's the same like a normal catalog campaign, but it's not. It's not only that you have your products being displayed within the app and then you click on it and you get redirected to that product page. No, the user stays within the app. There is no more website, e-commerce, own brand experience. However, it's all being illustrated within the app. And of course, being similar to an instant page, the conversion rate should be much, much higher because there are no loading times. All your information will be pre-filled out. You can probably just check out with Apple Pay. So you can check out within 10 seconds, basically. Yeah.
So if it launches here, I don't know yet. It's still in the clouds, I think, and not clear. There's definitely, I think, big possibility for the Middle East market. So I think that's for next year pretty interesting. Also, what I think is upcoming and still not heavily utilized here is AI content.
I just wanted to talk about that. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I think AI content in Germany, like if I look how much the agency there the German agency produces in AI dubs, AI voiceovers, AI UGC, it's insane. It's AI produced animations, whatever. There's so many possibilities, and it's just, so many tools launching. And here with TikTok Symphony, you can use Arabic UGC, you can make it Khaliji. Some of the ads that we actually did are AI content. It's funny, but it's not yet there. So especially when you talk about dialects, right?
Exactly.
Because it's mixing up Syrian, Egyptian, Saudi. It's not 100% that what you would like to have to be authentic for the Saudi market, let's say. So I think that one, if they make it this year, that would be pretty big for next year.
It doesn't even have to be, let's say, the voiceovers. Even if you just start with creating stills or animations or videos, you can already have a big advantage compared to your competitors, because within seconds you can have a huge output of new content which you can use for your campaigns, where other brands need hours and hours, graphic designers and so on. And at the end, not you, not I, not the brand, not the marketing director decides what is going to work well or not. The audience decides. And if you can 100%. See that some AI creative is delivering better results than your beautiful crafted Photoshop creative, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's the reality. You should do more of the AI then and less of your manual work. 100%. So you can see throughout our entire conversation, we're always going back to the same point, data-driven approach, look at the data across all the different channels. And I think that quite well summarizes our episode today.
Yes, for sure. I think it was a great value. Looking forward to the next one, Moritz.
We'll do. Sebastian, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And
see you next one.
See you in the next one. Yeah.